sometimes you wonder why certain movies exist. Really. I was wondering about this movie before I even saw it, but I had heard what the subject was going to be, so I knew a little bit about it. Why does this movie exist? In 1955, a movie about events that happened in 1906, 50 years earlier. And we have seen like nostalgia movies, especially just after World War II, from America, from the States. Nostalgia movies about the good old days of 1900 and stuff like that. But this is not that, because this is about a murder. A murder. Most foul, as in the best it is. And this is not in the best at all. This is in the absolute effing worst. In fact, this is a famous murder that made papers and was a big scandal. Why make a pretty movie about it? I don't know. It is about a pretty girl. So that's one. And when I was watching it, because the pretty girl is Joan Collins, in fact it's actually, it's not quite her very first role, but it is one of her earliest roles in the States. She is all of 22 years old. She is a very pretty girl, and she always was a very pretty girl, so that's a given. Playing a very pretty girl. The prettiest girl of the age of the early 1900s, the Gibson girl. She's playing Evelyn Nesbit, who was the original model for all those Gibson pictures, and I'll put them over here. She was a model, and then she met some people, and she married somebody, and there was suddenly a dead person. So what the hell? And the trial, because the husband was the killer, so yeah, a trial. And she's in the middle of it. And I was watching Joan Collins play this young lady, very young lady by the way, as a young lady, and I was looking at her going, that style of acting, I know that. Hey, that's what Marilyn Monroe usually does. Like that innocently, naively girl look. I was going, did she get as a young actress, you get instructions of what to do from the director. Did she get instruction from the director to be like Marilyn Monroe, who was the big star in 1955? And when I looked up this movie on Wikipedia, yeah, this movie was actually written for Marilyn Monroe. Makes so much sense. And there's also opening in the movie for musical numbers. Of course, Joan Collins has zero singing talent. She can do a lot, but singing, I've never heard her sing. And I've not even heard her sing a lullaby. She don't sing. So, dancing, yes, but Evelyn Nesbit, the character she's playing, was actually not known for being a singer. She was known for the modeling and for being an actress and probably a passable dancer on the stage. Not for singing. So, it's fair to have Joan Collins play this. She does it very well. Ray Miland, who plays the other party, also very good. It doesn't help because the story is really... So the story as presented in the movie is young Evelyn is a model and she comes onto the stage because she was a model first before she came on. She was discovered for the stage. And she meets this older gentleman, Stanford White, who is a very successful architect, famous architect. In the New York area. They're all in the New York area at this point. And he's very dashing, handsome, very kind. And she kind of falls for him. And he falls for her. And they do a little kissy kiss and all that. But yeah, he's married. He's older. He's married. He's long time married, and he's not even unhappily married or anything like that. They're not having a World War romance anymore. But they. Evelyn goes, I really want you, and I want to do this. But he says, yeah, that's not fair to any of us. So let's not. So he gets her off the stage, because the stage is not the best place in the world, into a school, because she's still young, so she should go to school. And in the middle of this, she also has a lot of other people who make grabby hands at her, because very pretty girl, also model, so a famous pretty girl. And one of these people who keep hanging around her is Harry Thaw. He is, Stanford White is worth quite a bit of money, but Harry Thaw is worth quite a bit more of money. So, he really wants her, so he pursues her, and he kind of corners her, and she realizes that she can't have her Stanford, because he's really not saying yes. He's turned her down every time. And she finally says yes to Harry. Biggest mistake of her life. Harry, you see, is quite crazy. Looney Tunes. And he gets it into his head that Stanford was grooming. They didn't use the word because the word didn't exist in 1955 when they made this movie. But he said that Stanford groomed Evelyn and ruined her forever, because she's still in love with Stanford and never going to be actually in love with Harry. I mean, let's face it, and Harry is not ready to face that. So the umpteenth time that they run into each other in New York, in a public place again, he pulls out a gun and shoots Stanford. Dead. Like dead. And with so many witnesses. So, big trial. They want to plead him as an insanity plea, or any plea at all. Temporary insanity of some sort. And for that, they need her on the stand to show how such a bad guy White was. And she resists, but then she has to give in, and she does go on the trial. And yeah, basically the story is about a love affair that should not be happening. The older guy, who's already married with the much younger girl, they never ever state how young she is, because now we get into the problems of this movie, because she's 16. Evelyn Nesbit was 16 when she met Stanford White. Okay. And look, I like Ray Miland a lot. He is one of my favorite older guys to play any part in any movie. But in this, he has to be Stanford White, and if you look it up on Wikipedia, Mr. Stanford White is a really, really bad man. And I was looking at reading it and going, you know what? So this happened in 1906, and they met in 1901. So when she was 16. What this guy is doing, it was repeated quite recently. Also ended badly, by the way. This guy would collect young ladies. Yes, the peanut gallery is pulling a face. A red flag face. And he would groom them. Yes, even though they didn't know the name for it. He would have a lot of powerful friends, influential friends, famous friends. The friend who is missing from the movie is John Barrymore. Yes, that John Barrymore. He took up with the real Evelyn for a bit, possibly resulting in a terminated pregnancy. Dude, and she's 16, 17, 18 years old in the entire time of this. And this movie is trying to whitewash this guy? I don't know why.
History is written by those who won.
Yeah, but nobody won in this. And the odd thing about it, I'd have to check for Thaw, but Stanford White got killed, so he definitely dead. But Evelyn Nesbit, who was a young girl in 1906, in 1955, she's still around. They actually asked permission to make this movie. It is after a book, which I'm gonna assume is a pretty bad book. Don't recommend. But they did get permission from her, because otherwise they would have gotten a lawsuit, I think. Yeah, give her money, and that was the situation from the start. Is that there was she was from an okay affluent family, and was going okay until her father died when she was 10. And he died. He left debts. The house needed to be sold. The family was scattered to every part of the country, and they were couch surfing for a couple of years on family couches. Until the mother kept trying to find her footing somewhere, but the past. You teach people nothing, and then when they actually have to do something, because that's the situation, they know nothing. This woman had nothing to work with. Some sewing skills, but everybody has sewing skills in that day and age. All the women had sewing skills. After a couple of years, by the time that Evelyn was about 14, they were stabilized and working in, I believe, New York, either Philadelphia or New York, in the retail business, a till girl at a department store. So a good job. But at 14 she was working. At 12 her brother was working. The entire family was working. There she was discovered for being pretty and asked to model, and she found, oh, yes, modeling gig is a ridiculous gig. You just stand still for X amount of time, but the money is better than the other job. So convincing mom of the legitimacy of the job was a little bit more difficult, but at least the first few artists for which she posed were female, and that helped. But the mother did, I think she tried and probably thought that she succeeded. She has said later, oh, I absolutely made sure that there are no moments where Evelyn is actually posing in the All Together. Absolutely, she lost. There are some pictures of Evelyn in the unclothed state, and she's 14, 15, 16. This is where the real Stanford White finds her and sponsors her and takes her up to his house and feeds her some champagne, and then she blacks out, and the next morning she wakes up, and yeah, this is a really bad man. Look, I don't condone what Harry Thaw did. I really don't. You shouldn't be shooting up people. But a Stanford White kind of deserved it. Jeez. It would have been better if you'd taken the guy to the law. There's absolutely no chance of that. So whitewashing this guy is a really bad idea. Why? Also because Evelyn Nesbit wrote 2 autobiographies about it. A lot of stuff is known about it. In 1950, maybe this movie is just was supposed to be a vessel for Marilyn Monroe to do another sexy part. She turned it down. Marilyn Monroe, you see, can actually read. And she can just read history book, because this is all known fact, and see that, do not touch this with a 10-foot pole. My God. And Joan Collins, who is a unknown actress, is asked to come and play this, so she does play it as written, which is fair. So I have to say that any of the choices that the production made of picking the story and using the script is not on Ray Miland, it's not on Joan Collins, or on Fardy Granger, who plays Harry Thaw. And I have to say, it's very difficult to play like the person who goes mad, who's mad. It's very difficult, and I don't think he could have done any better with this, but it's bad because the role is bad. Poor Farley. He's getting snookered here really badly. My God. There are some good things to be said about this movie. I have to think about it for a moment, but there is some good things to be said about this movie. Promise. Yeah, the good thing, and it's kind of they had no choice there, is no, let's start with the bad thing. The bad thing is this is set in 1901 to 1905, very specifically. And people wear a certain fashion at the time, which is the pigeon breast fashion. It's fashion is very particular to its own time, and people outside of their time, they sort of go, no, not me. And so they're doing roughly a 1895 to 1910 fashion, but they're absolutely not doing the pigeon breast. They're doing the 50s structured undergarments, but they're doing the skirts and they're doing some of the sleeves. What they could not do, and that is actually helping this movie accidentally, the Gibson girls had that hair. You gotta do that hair. So they did the hair. They literally, even the moment, she's one time she's in bed and she's sick and she still has the hair. Hey, I admire your dedication. They also have all the girls, when they're not at home, in their own home, have hats, which is absolutely necessary. When you are not in your own home, at home, you are wearing a hat, a big hat. Because they did. And the gentlemen are almost never wearing any hats, because also 1955, the gentlemen are not wearing hats anymore. The modern gentlemen are not. And so I haven't particularly seen it in this movie, but you see it in other movies that they will have the hat but hold it. Because they realize, yes, we should have a hat, but I'm not going to wear the damn thing. But the ladies' hats, you can't just take them off like modern hats, because they're attached with pins, and like my hairdo. I can't just take my hairdo out all the time. I'm going to take it off when I go to leave the room or something like that, because then your stuff falls apart. So the ladies' hats would stay on until they got home, and then they completely took them off and then rearranged their hairstyle for indoor hair. So yes, the Gibson hair, it's there. And because the Gibson hair has to be there for Joan Collins, it is there for the other people as well. For the mother and the fellow performers, it's all there, that's really good. It is also colorful. It is widescreen. I think they did actually try their best to get as many things to look different as possible. So they have a carriage moment, but they also have a moment where they have an early automobile, which makes an awful amount of their crickets. But it's really good. So the modern guy comes, the older guy comes in an automobile, whereas the older guy does the carriages and stuff. So there's a look and an idea, and so they did some stuff there properly. The story. Oh my God. We can chalk it up to, let's not do this again. I mean, we should redo this story and now do it properly. Have a girl that's 16 and a guy he was 33 years older than she was. 33. So, would I recommend you watch this movie? Against that, you know that it's complete bunk. Sure. But no, I think any other movie would be better than this one. I want to see a new version of this story because it needs it. It's now over 100 years ago. Well, over 100 years ago, the events. Everybody involved is now dead. We can now say whatever we want about them. We don't have to cater to anyone.
Joan Collins is still with us.
But I mean from the 1906 people, everybody's gone. Joan Collins, yes, she's still here. Like I said, none of this is on Joan. Joan did a good job. Miland did a good job. But yeah, this is a stinker. Ich smells. And that's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it.